without a doubt, everybody's seemingly in agreement, I mean, other than Joe and Jill, that it is time for Joe to step back. I mean, that was an abomination last night, and there's really no other way to get around that. Unless, of course, you're a politician like he is and like she is, and maybe you have some idea that you can actually come back from this. I mean, this is crazy. I don't think you can. I mean, gosh, when all of your friends, every single one of them is like, hey, buddy, it's time. I mean, you lose Nicholas Kristof, President Biden, it's time to drop out. He writes in the New York Times. You lose Tom Friedman, President Biden is my friend. He must bow out of the race is his headline. I mean, and they keep going on and on and on in every single paper. Nobody thinks he can actually do this except for, well, I don't know, maybe him, maybe his wife. How messed up is it that Jill Biden still wants her husband to run? I mean, I'm just, saying, like, as a wife, wouldn't you just say, gosh, my husband is 81. He seems to be suffering from some form of dementia, some early form. And I'm sorry, I'm not a doctor, but guess what? I have had people in my life that have had this. It is a very sad thing, but you can kind of see the signs. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say, I'm starting to see the signs. You would think that she's also seeing them. I mean, everybody saw them. All of America saw them. And yet Jill Biden is actually continuing to trot him out there. I mean, she must be one real power-hungry lady, right? Listen to this. Look at this.
What you saw last night on the debate stage was Joe Biden, a president with integrity and character, who told the truth. And Donald Trump told lie after lie after lie. Oh, you're good. You're so good.
Really, 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 really. I don't actually think that's the case. In fact, CNN was fact-checking the lie after lie after lie after lie. Heck, you had Border Patrol right in the middle of the whole shindig, checking his lies after he alleged that the Border Patrol was supporting him. No, they said, we haven't, we never have, and we never will. Meanwhile, then you got CNN on the case with this one.
Some of them. He said he's the only president in a while who didn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world. Troops have, of course, died on his watch. He said he's put in a $15 per shot cap on insulin and Medicare. It's a $35 a month cap. He said it's a $200 cap on overall drug spending in Medicare. It's $2,000 a year. He said the border now has fewer crossings than when Trump was in office. That's generally not true. He said, or at least strongly suggested, unemployment was at 15% when he took office. It was actually 6.4. He said Trump wants to get rid of Social Security. Trump doesn't. He said billionaires pay 8.2% in taxes. It's much higher. He said Trump told Americans to inject bleach amid COVID. We know Trump made foolish comments about scientists studying disinfectant injection, but didn't frame it as advice to people. And Biden said the Border Patrol endorsed him. No, its union supported the border bill he supported, never endorsed him himself.
So what is Jill thinking? I mean, I get it's politics, right? And they all lie. But let's just talk about being a human being, being a wife. She's been married to the guy for a zillion years. I mean, is this how bad it is in Washington, where the wives are so entrenched in it that they're so power hungry too? Unfortunately, a little bit, right? A little bit. Because they're sort of the executive producer, if you would, of the campaign. She's the executive producer of Joe Biden, but what's left of Joe Biden? Nothing. He's struggling, ladies and gentlemen. He is suffering. And you would think in most cases, a wife would say, I love you, honey. You know what? Like, it's time. But she's not willing to do that. So what happens next? There's a rumor out there, unconfirmed, but I'll share it with you anyway, that, because it makes a ton of sense, that Barack Obama had a pretty serious conversation with Jill and with Joe. And that Jill is not budging. She's like, absolutely not, absolutely not. She's all in. She wants him to keep on running. So what did they do? They hightailed it to a rally, and there he is trying to make excuses for what you saw on stage last night. Okay, I'll admit this. He had a little coffee. He sounded a little bit better, but you know what? It was all teleprompter. This was not natural. This was not off the cuff. He was not being challenged. He was reading a stinking teleprompter. Watch.
Let me close with this. I know I'm not a young man. State the obvious. Well, I know. Well,
81, but an old 81.
well, I don't. Folks, I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
No, you don't.
I know right from wrong.
No, you don't. Hunter did nothing wrong, remember?
This job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Okay. Yeah, he's been knocked down a few times, and it's real. So if you haven't heard the term cheap fake, pretty soon he's going to be telling us that that whole debate was nothing but a cheap fake. It was just AI. Don't believe what you see. It's any unedited video of Joe Biden's cognitive decline that the Biden administration does not want the public to see. And that's what he's been saying over and over and over again is going on, except for guess what? The public saw it on full display last night in its entirety, which means they're not going to be able to go with the cheap fake thing anymore. I mean, when you got Chris Wallace now on CNN going after you, telling you this was the night the nail went in the coffin. Oh gosh, I hate to make a pun like that.
This has been, quite frankly, a car accident in slow motion that we've seen over and building and questioning it. And, you know, as has been pointed out, Joe Biden sought this debate at this remarkably early time because he knew he was losing and he needed to change the narrative. Yep. And he did change the narrative. He sunk his campaign tonight.
Oh, he sunk it, all right. He sunk it. But you know what? As a conservative myself, I actually consider that a good thing. It is good that the American public got to actually see who he is, because I was getting sick of being called a cheap fake. Thank you very much. By the way, we showed you the entirety of those videos. So for example, when he started to drift off and the Prime Minister of Italy, Meloni, had to say, oh, come back. And she grabbed him. The White House was mad because you couldn't see the parachuter that he was looking at. It didn't matter. It was how he walked, okay? It was how he walked. He's sort of shuffling along. And it's how he smiles. And it's when he looks all dazed and confused when they're playing all this music and everybody's badly dancing, but he can't even do that. That's what America and Americans and conservatives like myself, journalists, started to point out. But you were not allowed to point it out until, of course, it pointed itself out. And he'll pay the consequences. And I think if the election were held today, it would be a landslide for Donald Trump. Make sure you do me the favor of subscribing to the show. Do that right now. Like, thumbs up, all that good stuff. I will see you over at 76 Research and back here on the channel. Thank you.